We have Mrs. Jen Allred and Mr. Alex Martinez with us today. At this point, I'd like to hand it back over. Mrs. Allred, if you would introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks for having me today. I'm Jen Allred, and I'm the Chief of Programs and Special Projects here at Lakeshore Foundation.
And are you originally from Alabama?
I'm not. I'm a Baltimore girl. I moved here after a family job change in late '99, and I've worked at Lakeshore the totality of my time in Alabama, and it's a fabulous place, so I'm thrilled about the opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, so you've really gotten to see it grow over the years. And I grew up in Philadelphia, so like that Chesapeake Bay area, I love the crab festivals around there during the summer and spring. Try and get up there as much as possible.
It's a good place.
Mr. Martinez, if you would introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Alex Martinez, and I'm a project coordinator for the National Center on Health, Physical Activity, and Disability. That's a long name, but for short, it's called NCPAD. And so I do get to collaborate a lot with Lakeshore Foundation. One of the collaborations that we are actually doing now is just helping with the veteran programming. So happy to be here at the table today.
And are you also originally from Alabama?
I am not from Alabama. I'm actually from Puerto Rico. That's where I was born and raised. And I moved to Alabama here in the Birmingham area about maybe 14, 15 years ago.
Yeah. And how long have you been with NCPAD?
NCPAD, I've been about 5 years, 6 years. So, and even in those short, term amount of space, I've also been able to see the growth. Like this area where we were in wasn't here when I first got in. So it's amazing to see how quickly, Lakeshore Foundations have been able to grow even with that short span of time.
Yeah, and I love the relationship between Lakeshore and NCPAD. I mean, you guys are in the same vicinity, on the same campus, so you're allowed to communicate and have those relationships and build them together.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what exactly is Lima Foxtrot? I'm going to open this up for anybody.
Sure, I can jump in. So, Veterans Program and serving injured military have been a part of what Lakeshore does and a part of adapted sports since really coming out of World War II, when veterans were returning from conflict with physical disabilities. And if you look back to its earliest roots, adapted sport really started to play a role way back then. And so that's always been a part of the thread of the programs that Lakeshore offers. But really the Lima Foxtrot program came to life in about 2006. We as an organization were talking about current events in this nation, and we were seeing tens of thousands of men and women return from conflict with physical disabilities. And we started to talk about how they were returning to this nation and what we as an organization could do to use our expertise in helping them return to an active, healthy lifestyle. And so we said, let's do a camp. Let's bring in 30 or so injured military men and women and a family member or a friend to come along with them to camp. And we're going to do this great experience and really make an impact. And by day 2 of the camp, we all went, this can't be a one and done project for us. This needs to be something that we make a larger commitment to as an organization, and we look to our community to support. So we launched that official Lima Foxtrot program in 2007. Since that time, we've hosted dozens of camps that welcome individuals from across the country. We have the Operation Endurance program that is for those local veterans or service members with a disability to get active in our programs. And, I will say, and we can't say it enough, we could never do it without the support of our community. This community has been amazing and engaging in this effort. They've supported us along the way in so many incredible ways. And it's just a beautiful demonstration, I think, of our community's real desire to support our military.
And when you think about military and serving in the military, it may be associated with a little bit more risk taking from the individual, which could also correlate to being active in sports. So when you get out of the military, you still have those contributions that you want to be active, that you want to be in athletics and organized sports. And maybe there was something that happened during the time that you served where you became disabled. Now, you mentioned that it officially started in 2007, 2006 era. Was that kind of around the time when people were coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, and you saw a surge in veterans coming back that still wanted to be active?
Yeah, that was the time that the numbers were somewhere around 30,000+ men and women that were returning with physical disabilities and chronic health conditions. And so again, the notion of injured military is not new to us, but because there were such large numbers of individuals, we really felt that we as an organization can and should do more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to add, because the beauty of adaptive sports for injured veterans and also any type of veterans is that, and I've seen this, I had the opportunity to coach sitting volleyball at the Warrior Games, and that's something that Lakeshore Foundations has given me the opportunity to do and allow me to go and participate on this. And I've seen how adaptive sports are really helping military personnel that are injured to stay physically active through adaptive sports. But also there's another component to it, which is like the social aspect of it that allows people, especially military personnel, to really engage with people that understand where they're coming from, who they are, what they have experienced. So it's a great tool, to not only work on the physical aspect of individuals, but also the mental health of individuals.
Yeah, and that's really important for everybody. When I first moved to Alabama, I didn't really know anybody, but I started playing hockey, and Pelham has a hockey rink. So I started meeting friends and peers through hockey. And that's, I wrestled in college, and that's how I've grown a lot of my relationships over time is those sports and those team sports. And it can do wonders. I noticed, it's really funny, like back in school, whenever I was in season, even in college, I would always do better in season, even though I had less free time on my hands. I was always at practice or always competing, but my grades went up. So getting active and being on that team really does help that mental health and emotional health there.
Yeah, I can tell you that there is a correlation between academical achievement, especially in kids. We talked about recess and quality physical education, which is kind of the area that I spearhead at NICPAD, and how really physical activity, quality physical education, whether it's in the school setting, the community, really helps students to be able to achieve better in terms of their academic performance. So it's encouraged. I'm a huge proponent of just playing physical activity as much as you can and making sure that it's accessible for everyone.
Yeah. And it's not the same as just going to the gym and lifting. I've actually got to do like a sport and get involved there. I'd like to talk a little bit about the statistics and the track record of Lakeshore as it's been serving injured servicemen. And if you could kind of talk about some of those statistics.
Yeah, so, since we started our programs, Lakeshore Foundations have been able to serve about 28 injured servicemen and women, and also their families. So a lot of the camps that we do also involve the family members, understanding that, physical activity for someone that, for anyone, really need that support from the family. So having families together here at Lakeshore Foundation, participating in adaptive sports programs, allow them to really see the value on adaptive sports and really find out ways that they could actually do physical activity together in sports. So I think that's one of the real values of what adaptive sports is and what we can offer. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that, within our program, we have served about 46 different states, people from 46 different states, including DC and also Puerto Rico, where I'm from. So I'm happy to see that my fellow Puerto Ricans are coming here participating.
Yeah. What does that look like to say that you serve 46 states? Because when I think of programs locally, like at Lakeshore, I think of community here in Birmingham or maybe the state. Like some people will travel to UAB for medical needs throughout the state. I feel the same way about Lakeshore. People will travel, but people are not traveling from 46 states necessarily to go to UAB. So what does that look like to serve 46 states?
It's incredible, frankly. It comes at sort of the crossroads of us being able to build really meaningful partnerships and collaborations with military organizations across the country. And really what it's designed to do is to say, how do we make sure that those that are returning to their communities can get information about how to lead an active, healthy lifestyle, come here for a camp, and really at its core, it's not a vacation. It's fun, it's fabulous, but it's really about how can you start to develop some skills that are activities you can return to at home. So how can we get you involved in cycling, swimming, rock climbing, things that you really can do when you return back to wherever you live in this country. And so that's another piece of that beautiful connection with NICPAD, because there are resources through NICPAD all over the United States. So when someone comes to us from Iowa and says, I love cycling, this has been so great, how do I get involved at home? our partners in NICPAD can talk about what's right there in their backyard that they can get plugged into.
Yeah, that was my next question. Okay, you come to camp and you learn how to do cycling, but then what happens when you go back home? Is there support there? And it sounds like NICPAD can reach out to your local organizations and get you involved.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we can do, that NICPAD can do as an organization, is that we have a referral component to what we do. So we do have a directory on our website that people can access and really look at what's being offered in their communities. And they can search by zip code, by state, by city, and it will populate those opportunities for physical activity in their communities. If there's something that they can find on that directory, we also have a chat line and a 1-800 number that if they contact one of the information specialists, we're able to search within the community and some of the connects that we have, what's out there that might not be in the directory.
Yeah.
And that way guide people to where there are opportunities for adaptive physical activity.
How many individuals do you still do the camp every year?
We do multiple camps every year. So each year, our military program really kind of ebbs and flows based on need, both in our community and across the country. So this year, we'll do a camp for injured service women who will come to an Operation Refocus. And again, that's a female veteran-based camp. We'll do Operation Rise and Conquer, which is that camp that was that very first one that I mentioned that we did back in '06. But we also will have Operation Endurance, which is that program for our local veterans. And then we'll host some camps from some outside organizations. The Wounded Warrior Project is bringing some initiatives here this year. PVA, the Paralyzed Veterans, are bringing a basketball camp here this year. So sometimes they're Lakeshore's initiatives, and sometimes Lakeshore is the partner in bringing our facilities and expertise to the table with incredible organizations like Wounded Warrior Project and PVA. So
now, when those individuals come from around the country, can their family come with them?
Every camp is a little bit different.
Yeah.
So some camps are designed around bringing an individual with you. Some are designed around bringing your entire immediate household with you. So each one is a little bit unique in what it offers.
Now, if somebody's thinking about doing a camp like that at Lakeshore, how long is it? What is it all about? What can they expect?
Again, everyone is a little bit different,
Yeah.
but I think in the broadest strokes, the way that camps work, they typically run on a Wednesday to a Sunday kind of schedule. Wednesday is a travel in day. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday are all around different activities, and Sunday is a travel out day. But again, they're all a little bit different based on sort of the objective of the camp. Are we in the case of like a basketball camp, is it all around sort of honing in on that one particular sport? Or in the case of a Rise and Conquer, is it all about how we can kind of get out and about and use this beautiful community and all of the great ways to get active that we have here locally to get someone re-engaged? And
does that all take place here on campus at Lakeshore, or are there camp locations throughout the state?
Many of our activities happen here on this 45-acre campus, but we try to get out and about quite a bit too. Not only is that a great way to sort of use all the assets of Birmingham, but it's also a great way for people, again, to start to think about, there's a state park in my community. How could this, I'm going out to Oak Mountain. I bet there's something similar to this where I live. Yep. I'm at a camp down at a harbor. There's a lake where I live. What do they have? So sometimes it can really help someone kind of connect the dots about what's where they live.
I love Oak Mountain. I do some cycling out there, less than I should, but
yeah.
It's a really safe space because I don't want to get hit like on the road.
Right.
I lived in Phoenix and I did a decent amount of cycling out there, but the roads were really well, they had bike lanes for it. Here, not so much in Birmingham, but there is an entrance fee to Oak Mountain, so it kind of like filters out, people that are going to be crazy on the road, and there's a big bike lane, so I really enjoy Oak Mountain.
Well, I was going to say, if you know any veterans that go to Oak Mountain, there's a program that is sponsored by Blue Star Families, and you can get for free to Oak Mountain by being part of that program and presenting a military ID. I'm also a veteran, so I cycle every weekend at Oak Mountain, and I get to get in for free.
Do you go the whole route from the start to the end at the other end and then come back? Or
I do mountain biking.
okay,
So we go in the trails, which is also safer,
Yeah.
I'll say. But I've done road cycling too, and then I'll just go, from one entrance to the other one.
yeah, that's kind of what I do is the entrance to the other end and
Yeah.
then back.
I found out that, mountain biking is a little more fun,
Okay,
but also, it depends how you look at it, right? It's safe in the sense that you don't have cars next to you.
but you got a tree right in front of you.
Yeah, you could fall pretty
I've
easily.
seen enough videos of like, I got this, like, boom.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I'll be doing that anything. But something I would like to give a shout out to getting out in the community, I'd like to see more at Pelham, the ice hockey rink of sled hockey. And from my understanding, there are a few sleds here in town, but I just haven't seen anybody being active down there.
Yeah, so sled hockey is a fantastic, fun Paralympic sport. In fact, the U.S. are the reigning gold medalists from this most recent Paralympic Games in Beijing. So in Alabama, as you touched on, we do have an ice rink here. But we don't have tons of winter sports in this community. So
True.
when we start to think about sort of, okay, how do we use the assets of Birmingham? How do we connect people to winter sports? We do have sleds here. What we have done is we use them in our field house. We actually put roller wheels on them to get people sort of engaged in how they would sit in the sled, how they would move. We can put the blades on them, and we do take groups down to the ice rink to be able to skate. So. Yep.
Just 1 second, guys. We got one of the lapels cutting in and out, so Clifton's going to go ahead and reset that. And Alex, we'll kind of talk. I'd like to shine some light on some statistics about disabled veterans and kind of the volume there of individuals that are eligible for programs like this. If you could kind of go through some of those statistics.
Yeah, I actually brought some numbers for you. In the USA, there are 4.9 million veterans with disabilities. That's about 20% of the total population of veterans in the U.S. Here in the state of Alabama, in 2019, it was reported by the VA that we had about 368, 214 veterans with a service-connected disability. So what that really means is that the disability was acquired during their service time. So we are not really counting those that might acquire a disability after their service. And so those add up to that number pretty fast. So as you can see, we have a huge population of veterans in Alabama and also a huge population of veterans with disabilities. Just so you know, when we talked about just people with disabilities in general in the U.S., 1 on every 4 people will have a disability. Mm-hmm. And it's if you consider that a minority group, it's the only minority group that you're welcome to join at any point, right? Yeah. I mean, we won't fall away to be in that population. So there's a lot of people with disabilities that we often don't see. One of the reasons is because programs are not accessible for them. So that's one of the beauties of Lakeshore Foundation, that our programs are accessible for people with disabilities. So we get to see them, we get to engage with them, and hopefully make a contribution to the health and wellness.
Yeah, you see, Lakeshore is kind of universal design from the start. As soon as you get to the front door, you feel very accepted there. Now, you mentioned that there is a difference between individuals that receive their disability while serving actively and then others that may have received it after active duty. And that makes me think, what is kind of the age group in these camps and in Lima Foxtrot? Are you noticing younger individuals that had a disability from active service, or is the Lima Foxtrot more somebody a little bit older in life that served younger in life but now has a disability?
I don't know if, from what I've seen, I think that when we come to camps, we see a mix of different age groups. Mm-hmm. When it comes to memberships to Lakeshore Foundation that are sponsored by Operation Endurance, we'll see that the age is probably a little older population on that sense.
Okay.
But we see everyone. I'll say even kids participating in the family camps. We see that they come out here.
And a statistic that you mentioned is about 1/4 of the population has a disability. And someone said to me, I forget who it was, that if you live long enough, you will have a disability.
Yeah.
So these services, they're going to benefit everybody at some point.
Yeah, and you mentioned universal design, and that's something that when we build anything, we take that into consideration. really thinking about people, that different types of users, but knowing that it will also benefit me at the moment, and also if I acquire a disability at some point in my life. So really is a good starting point to make things accessible for people, right? Not only in the infrastructure or environmental, but also in programs as well. So that's a model that we have adopted when we come up with programs. So make sure that people all kinds of users can utilize those programs and have access to physical activity.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like, Lakeshore and Birmingham is really becoming kind of the epicenter in America for Paralympics, for disability, adaptive sports, in the same way that I think of Colorado as kind of the Olympic training center up in the mountains. I feel like Birmingham is really growing in that aspect. I mean, we got the World Games coming to town, and this is the first time there's going to be an adaptive sport in there.
Yeah, it's fabulous. And actually today, the U.S. Low Point rugby team is traveling into Birmingham. They will be hosting a training camp here this week. And at the end of that training camp, they're going to be naming the team that will compete at the World Games. So incredible moment for adapted sport and for wheelchair rugby. So thrilled, great opportunity to have them in Birmingham.
I'm going to try and get to that event. We would love to do a broadcast of that event, but I'm sure there's already broadcasters lined up for it. But Birmingham's going to be crazy. I got some family coming into town for that week.
Awesome.
It's going to be a big fun time. Let's talk a little bit about the eligibility for Lima Foxtrot and the number of programs that you guys have here at Lakeshore for disabled veterans. What are the eligibility requirements?
So the eligibility requirements that they're veterans, right, or have served in the military, and they have a physical disability, a chronic condition, so basically that's it, right? And like I mentioned before, those cases that veterans with PTSD, they will look at those cases basis, mm-hmm. Just to make sure that there are some conditions that are related to physical disabilities.
Do they have to bring any documentation from doctors, anything like that, or that, proof that they served in the military, those kinds of things?
Yeah, so usually, when you get discharged from the military, you get what is called a DD-214, probably one of your proudest documents that you ever get from military. So you have to, that will show proof of service. And we also ask for some kind of proof of the diagnosis of a disability. So whether that's something that they acquired through the VA, some paperwork that has some kind of disability rating, or maybe something that they get from their private doctor.
Okay, so there's a little bit of documentation, but I was not familiar with the DD-214, but if you served, it sounds like you definitely are familiar with it.
I know where's mine, I know where to find it.
We have a comment here from Lakeshore Foundation saying, fun fact, our youngest Operation Endurance member is 30 and the oldest is 81. So quite a broad range of age there.
It is. It is. And, we've talked a lot about the camps already today, but I think sort of the biggest piece of our Lima Foxtrot program and the camp that kind of goes on all the time is Operation Endurance. And that is that way that the person that lives local to Birmingham can come and every day participate in Lakeshore Foundation programs. They're known as Operation Endurance members, and they can come here. We're open 6 days a week, and they can be a part of our regular membership program. And then there's some fantastic opportunities that Alex and Cliff and others in our departments have been putting on. They've been doing some golf programs recently and some other initiatives that the VA has funded for us this year. So great chances for people to get involved here 6 days a week and in some specialty programs as well.
I saw an adaptive golfing chair, and it was amazing. I saw this video, and this gentleman, was just making it to where he wanted to hit the golf club, and he hit the ball way further than I can hit the ball.
Yeah, we actually have one of those pieces of equipment here.
Really? I mean, those things look like they're 50 grand.
Yeah, well,
They look like
I don't know how much was it, but
it was donated to us.
Yeah.
I think that chair is another great example of a person that lived in our community, and her husband was an avid golfer and had the chair. And upon his passing, she really wanted to put it in the hands of others that could fall in love with golf, but might think that it was out of reach for them. And she donated it to us, and Alex and Cliff have immediately put it into practice, taking it out to Highlands Golf Course, which is really close to us. And Highland has been a great partner in our golf effort, and so they've been going out there every week for the last 7 weeks.
Our last session will be next Monday. So we have 8 sections, and which are taught by a PGA instructor. Certified PGA instructor.
Yep.
And so we go out there every Monday, and then we have some lessons. I even attempted to drive the ball a couple of times, not very successful, but I attempted. And so one of the cool things about that program is that we do have a veteran that is being utilized in the paragolf, which is the equipment that you were talking about. And he was telling me a story how his brother is really, really into golf. And he always wanted him to like, hey, you need to start golfing so we can golf together.
Yeah.
And immediately, he went out and tried the paragolf. It was an immediate success. He was able to actually make it work and be able to participate. So after the first session that we had, he went home and talked to his brother like, hey, I'm ready to play.
Yeah, you better watch out. I'm coming for you.
He also got connected with other organizations that are providing funding for him to be able to actually hire an instructor in the area, and he's going to get golf clubs that are made for him and everything. So because of that little interaction that we had with him and introducing him to golf, now he's going to be able to pursue that if he wanted to, either recreationally or competitive.
And that's something that his brother wanted to do. He wanted to do with his brother and didn't have access to at that time. And now he's in his 7th, going on 8th session, and moving forward to, getting an instructor, lowering that golf score a little bit, throwing some money on the hole.
All the good things that come along with golf. But it's about that connection back to his family. Everybody wants to be a part of doing different family activities. And so I think that's a great success story of something that's fun for him to do and a way for him to build up a family connection as well.
And there's also another component that we really haven't talked about, because I don't think there's a way to measure it, but when it comes to adaptive sports, what I've realized, working here and working in other organizations in the community that serve veterans, is that, veterans want to serve. Even though if they're done with their service time, they still want to serve in the community. They're born leaders, So having all that knowledge, a lot of times allowed them to go to their community, maybe start something that it wasn't there before. I've seen it happen in other examples. So maybe it kind of helps also to kind of reduce that gap of not having accessible programs in different communities by empowering them to actually start something.
Yeah. And this is, I feel like, and we've been at Lakeshore, for my family member's a member at Lakeshore, but this is where you come to kind of like get trained. You can come continually, but you can come here and get the knowledge that you need to do that work in your local community and build those structures. Even when we talked about serving 46 state, you can come here and train and learn, take that confidence and knowledge back to your local community and start building those relationships and those.
Yeah, and you mentioned that partnership with NCPAD, and that's something that we're able to take that knowledge of what Lakeshore is doing, Lakeshore Foundation, and we're able to disseminate it to other people that want to replicate what Lakeshore Foundation is doing. I get a lot of questions about physical education and how a PE teacher could actually include their students in their curriculum. And I will go and ask the recreation specialist here, hey, how are you adapting these activities? They will give me the information, then I can transfer that to other people that are requesting that information. So you can see how that partnership really, really works when it comes to just being promoting inclusion in different programs.
That's a really good point that I haven't thought about before, is PE in the schools, middle school or high school. What is an example of speaking with a PE teacher and helping them be more inclusive?
Yeah, so one of the things that we preach and one of the things that we also promote is UDL. Universal design. You mentioned universal design. There's a component to that, which is universal design of learning, which is the same principles that were brought up by the architectural world, where you have learning experiences for different types of learners. So we promote that, and we teach teachers how to utilize UDL, meaning that if they're teaching a lesson, there are multiple ways to deliver that lesson, right? It's not just telling you what to do. I'll show you what to do. Maybe I have a video. Maybe I have a demonstration from a student or a paraprofessional. That way, I'm appealing to all those different types of learners, and then it allows for more success, if that makes sense. So we promote that framework in everything that we do. We also create resources based on the needs of teachers, and then we also have many trainings throughout the year that we because of the pandemic, we're able to do a lot of them via Zoom. But we also travel. We're affiliated with the local state association for teachers, and we present on their conferences. We're also part of their board. So there's a huge impact of what Lakeshore does in the community when it comes to PE teachers as well.
Yeah, I'm a very kinesthetic learner, and I have to see somebody else do it, and then I have to do it myself in order to understand it.
Right.
But you're talking about different forms of media there and different forms of educating and teaching. And if I'm a kinesthetic learner and I also have to see somebody do it, but I can read a book or about that, it helps further anchor that. And so the individual that is going through that, it benefits, but the whole class, it benefits if they have access to that as well.
That's exactly what it is. It's a support, that allows you to learn something in different ways. Not only learn it, but also when it's time to tell the student to tell the teacher what did they learn, they also have multiple ways to express that, right? So it's not necessarily just an exam. You can demonstrate it. You can narrate what you're going to do. You can draw what you're going to do when it comes to PE. And those are ways where you can actually assess the learning in a non-typical way, right? I think we all have sat at a table taking an exam before, and some people might know the content, they might not know how to put it on the test. So I think that's a topic for a whole different audience. But
we're here today doing a broadcast because I can't write. I don't do blogs. And so this is my form of doing that. I'd rather speak with people. I can't put sentences together. My brain just doesn't work like that. I'd much rather talk with people. Another thing that's been a lifesaver is YouTube and just being access to those videos, different forms of media there. I want to jump back to the camps and talk a little bit about, and I know there's quite a difference between the camps going on, but if we could talk about some of the expectations and outcomes that individuals can have. So once again, I'm thinking about going to this camp. I'm not sure what it's about. What should I be prepared for? What should I try and have as my final goal there as an outcome?
Everyone's goal is their own. It's very individual. And for some individuals that come to camp, this is a continuation of a journey to get active, and they've tried different things and they want to come here for a particular element of activities. For some people, this is a first piece of a journey, and they're trying to figure out, I want to return to an active, healthy lifestyle. I'm not sure how to get started, and I want to do it. Goals can be the most granular. When we talk about success, sometimes success is just families operating like a family. We talked about, we have a rock wall downstairs, and one of our military participants was climbing the rock wall, and his wife's reaction to that was watching him climb the rock wall. She said, this lets me know that he can be helping me take out the garbage, be a part of the family household. And, as you watch that moment, you realize that that's the moment they started to interact as a family again, because those are the real conversations people have in the kitchen about who's going to take the garbage out and who's picking up dinner and who's doing all those things. So so sometimes the outcome is just who's going to take out the garbage. And then sometimes the outcome is watching someone on the biggest stage of the Paralympic Games capture a medal on behalf of our nation. And so they're representing the United States in a very different way than they did through service, but in a very profound way. So, sometimes the outcome is a Paralympic medal, and sometimes it's, something very different.
Your wife telling you got to take out the trash.
Exactly. But
you're 100% right, because there's evidence out there that shows that adaptive sports promotes independence. So when it comes to people with disabilities, a lot of times the main goal is just to be able to be independent. And if that can be achieved through, adaptive sports rather than, therapy, that's a huge win. You're able to do it in a fun way. You're still healthy. You'll be able to achieve wellness. So it's a great tool to be able to help people with independence.
I think staying active has a big effect on me personally and on individuals doing that. And it sounds like when we're going through this, one of the things that happens is some limiting beliefs go away. Maybe if you're a new veteran that is disabled, you have some limiting beliefs about what you can do, and coming to these camps and being a member at Lakeshore, you start to do these things and it's like, I can do this. And your family starts to see that, oh, he or she can do that. It reminds me of a story of a mom who is a parent of I believe it was a daughter with a disability, and they were at the playground or something like that. And she's like, oh, my daughter can't do that. And all of a sudden the daughter's out there just having a blast, climbing, interacting with kids. And those limiting beliefs that mom had totally went away at that time. And that kid, was able to grow and gain confidence that they are able to do these things they want to do. So I feel like a lot of limiting beliefs come down during these programs, during these camps.
It can, and it can just be environmental here. Sometimes when you have a child with a disability, you may not necessarily regularly interact with an adult with a disability and see them as a spouse, an employee, a vibrant member of the community. And coming through the doors and seeing an adult who has a full-time job and a child and a spouse or wherever their life has led them, that can just be a moment of going, okay, I can have a different expectation for my child. Or, sometimes it's that person whose life has literally been flipped upside down by a diagnosis going, we have been navigating the healthcare world. We're back to getting our family member healthy and starting to think about, okay, how does our life carry forward from here? It carries forward in really great ways. And being physically active should continue to be part of that.
Yeah.
And there's a name for what you just described. We know, and through research we have find out that there's barriers to inclusion. Sometimes it's programmatic barriers. What happens in the space? Sometimes they're environmental. Can I get to the space? But there's another barrier that is probably the barrier that have the most impact on people with disabilities, which is perceptions, right? Attitudes and beliefs of the society that maybe they don't think that someone with disability wants to be physically active or want to achieve health and wellness. Or maybe thinking that if they participate in a program, they don't want to be pushed to the limit, those kind of things. So having those camps here and bringing the family kind of allows for everyone to see that, the perception should be that they have the right to participate. They're capable of participating if we adopt activities for them to be able to access that.
Yeah, it reminds me, there was a few years ago, I was at a pool party and I was there meeting a friend, and there was somebody else from the apartment complex that came down, and she was in a wheelchair, and she was friends with a number of the people. I'd never met her before, but she would stay kind of by the steps, and I had a float in my car. So I just brought the float out, and I threw it in the pool, and it was something that we could all hang around, and she could be on as well. So it made her part of that community there instead of kind of being a little bit toward the side, but setting, and so I hadn't talked to her for a while. We're still friends, but then the next summer, she sent me a picture. She goes, I got my own float for the pool parties. I was like, that's awesome.
Well, I mean, that's a great point, but it makes you think, like, what would have happened if that when they're developing that building complex, right, those developers are actually thinking about how can we make this pool accessible so you don't even have to bring your pool noodle, so she will have access to it from the beginning. And that's kind of one of the things that we're talking about here. Like when you are creating anything, utilize that universal design.
Yep.
Think about every type of user. Maybe next time it's not someone that uses a wheelchair. Maybe it's me that fell in my back, and I can't really go through a set of stairs. But that water might be therapeutic for me.
Yep.
Now I can utilize it, right? So that's what we said when we're planning something. If we bring people with disabilities to the table, allow them to offer information about what the needs are, how to fulfill those needs. Whatever is going to come out from that meeting is going to be so much better than, if you're not allowing people with disabilities to be at the table making decisions.
And I feel like that's a very hot topic in housing right now, accessible housing. You see, we have a lot of development going on around Birmingham, a lot of apartments going in downtown, a lot of bigger communities in the suburbs being built. And I had a conversation with Dr. Graham Sism on this, and I said, I don't think it should be mandated that it has to be universal design. And I said, I think that should be up to the individual, the homeowner, if they're building. And he said, basically, you're going to have a disability if you live long enough. So think about this. You want your house to be accessible. And then that kind of made me think, I was like, you know what, you're right. All these new buildings should start with individuals at the seat. This needs to be accessible this way kind of thing. And I don't know if it should be I feel like it kind of should be regulated. If you're going to have a new building, a new apartment complex, it has to meet these standards. And we do have some standards, the ADA, that kind of thing.
Yeah, what we find out is that, when it makes sense, like if you're going to build something, let's say you're building your house, to make it already accessible. There's a term for that, it's called visitability. Can your friend with a disability come participate and meet you at your house? I lived in an old house, and that's completely impossible, right? But one of the benefits of doing that is that if you ever have to sell your house, it's more marketable. If you ever had acquired disability, now you don't have to do any changes to your house. You already have it ready for you. So it would make sense if the industry achieved these designs in everything that they do, and they actually make codes so people, when they're building stuff, they're building it in a way that is inclusive for everyone.
Yeah, it's easier to make those accommodations when you're building instead of, spending quite a bit of money to make your house accessible after the fact.
Exactly.
Well, and if you think about from just a business proposition standpoint, if 1 in 4 persons have a disability, you wouldn't want to cut out 25% of your market share.
Yep.
So it's the right thing to do, and it's a good business decision.
Yeah.
But nobody should have to move because all of a sudden their world has changed. We all love our homes and we want to live in them forever. And so if they're built in a way that we can, it's better for everybody.
We spoke a little bit about some of the returning veterans that are disabled. Some of their goals may look like rock climbing and showing the family, but others may be receiving a medal on an international stage. This is kind of throwing you guys like right in front of the spotlight, but what percentage of Paralympic athletes do you think are veterans?
I don't know that I know the specific percentage, but I would say the root of the Paralympic Games is in our veterans.
Yeah.
When you look at the root of adapted sport, it is again back to that time at Stoke Mandeville in England when military personnel were returning from conflict with disability, that they really looked at how do we return them to an active, healthy lifestyle? How do they connect to the things they loved about military service? So I don't know the specific percentage, but I will say that both in this country and across the globe, you saw just recently in the Invictus Games that Prince Harry has put together, again, to acknowledge military service across the globe and make sure that people can return to active, healthy lifestyles. So it's a big piece at the genesis of the Paralympic movement, and it's a big piece that will continue forward.
Yeah, I could see that. All the way back to World War I or wars before that, and coming back to the community and saying, hey, I'm still going to serve you guys. This is how we need to make this happen. I would like to talk a little bit about Operation Endurance. And how often are we meeting during that program? What does the contact look like? Is it always in person? Is it some over email or text or video? What does that look like?
So with Operation Endurance, and this is a grant that we have acquired from the VA Adapted Sports Program. One of the things that it allows members is just to have a free membership to Lakeshore Foundation, so they can come in and participate in our offerings in terms of like athletics, recreation, aquatics, and fitness, and they can come in and please if they want to. One of the requirements is that you at least come to Lakeshore Foundation 4 times in a month, right? Just to make sure that you're utilizing those funds properly.
Yeah.
But with that, they have free range to really visit anytime that they wanted to. And when we have those programs like the Gold program, then we'll try to recruit people within the Operation Endurance membership to see who wants to participate. And that's usually how we do those activities.
I would say if you're not doing it 4 times a month, you're not gonna gain anything there. You got to be staying active with the program.
Right, and it's more kind of like a way for us to ensure that you're staying active and you are actually staying connected with Lakeshore Foundation. We understand, life is life. There might be times that you won't be able to come 4 times a month, but we try to have an open communication with the participant, to let us know what's going on, how can we help, and that kind of thing. So we work that with every member that comes to our doors.
I play ice hockey on Sundays down in Pelham, in a men's league, kind of an adult league. But if I don't get on the ice for 1 or 2 more times during that week, I tell you, once a week does not. I am lagging out there. I need a break, guys.
Yep, tired, sore. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I need to blow out the lungs a few times during the week as well. Now, the Operation Endurance program, is there a specific start to that? Like a day you have to sign up for, or is it kind of rolling start? You can sign up today or you can sign up in a month?
We're here 6 days a week. You can sign up. You can get information about our programs online, so you can do that 24 hours a day, 365. You can come by the foundation. We're here Monday through Friday from 5:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. and on Saturdays from 7 to 3. And so we can talk to you in person. We can talk to you over the phone. But you can come any day and every day. I
would recommend just coming here on location if you can, if you have the transportation, walking, coming in the front door and saying, "Hey, I want to be a part of this program. I'd like to speak with somebody," right then and there. come in, meet. I like meeting in person and get involved in the program right there. And if you qualify, it sounds like you will not have any out-of-pocket expenses there.
Well, I just want to mention, if you don't qualify for that program, we do offer scholarships based on income. So there are ways to work it out where people can come to Lakeshore Foundation, so we'll work with everyone.
My family member is on a scholarship as well, and that really helps out. She gets Social Security, but no other income, so we're very appreciative of that scholarship. Now, something else that I've heard when veterans come back at PTSD, a lot of veterans come back from war, have some post-traumatic stress disorder. Is that something that you guys kind of talk about during these programs with veterans?
So we really understand that PTSD is something that it's present in the veteran community. We also know that there are many veterans that might have PTSD and are not getting diagnosed for many reasons. We also understand that PTSD is something that it requires especially types of care, right? So we are not able to provide that type of care. However, we also understand that there are conditions associated with PTSD, such as muscle pain, headaches, increased heart rate, increased blood pressure that are chronic conditions. So those individuals that have PTSD and have all the other physical components of PTSD can come here, and we'll talk to them and we'll make sure that we can accommodate them. But really understanding that what we offer here for people with PTSD is complementary of all the other care that they really need to be able to take to achieve health and wellness.
Yeah, it's a holistic approach there. And I'm no doctor, but if a doctor, like a psychiatrist or something, wasn't including some type of physical activity, getting involved in the community, I'd probably say it's not the best approach. And you guys offer that community activity part of that process for that individual.
Right. And, health and wellness is, like you mentioned, is a lot of components, right? We're talking about physical activity, nutrition, mental health, even having your finances together is part of that health and wellness, right? So understanding that we are one of the big pieces to achieve health and wellness with everything that we do here at Lakeshore Foundation.
So we mentioned that most of the time there's no cost to the individual, the disabled veterans. Who is footing the bill for this? Who pays for the program? Where does the funding come from?
Yeah, so this is a grant that we have acquired from the VA Adapted Sports Programs. They have a rolling grant that they put out every year. And usually organizations will seek those fundings, and the main goal of the grant is to promote adaptive sports in the community. Mm-hmm. So we're able to do that here gracefully thanks for those funding.
Very nice. And how many people, individuals, are in the program currently?
I think the last time I checked, I want to say maybe around 50 or something like that.
That's a decent size.
And the pandemic really hit us hard when it comes to membership. A lot of people just stopped coming, and they are now getting back. So we are hoping that number is going to increase. We also changed some of our efforts, and we are talking about strategies to be able to recruit more. So having you guys here today really allow us to be able to do that as well. So thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And we want to see that number increase. We understand that there's a huge population that could benefit from our services, and we want to make sure that we are disseminating that information so people can come into Lakeshore and participate.
Now, do you guys also go into like the VA and do a little bit of, I don't want to say advertising, but communication with them?
So right now we're actually talking to people at the VA to have a booth. Mm-hmm. But a lot of our engagement happens, with us going to different organizations that serve veterans. We have, communicated with the American Legion, Team Red, White, and Blue in Birmingham. Yep. Those types of organizations. So we go there, talk to them, bring some materials, reach out via email, word to word. And then every time I have an opportunity, I talk to someone about veteran programming because it's something that I'm passionate about.
Yeah, and I've noticed that as well. So my family member didn't really come to Lakeshore during the pandemic. We're starting to get back into it. But I gained like 20 pounds during the pandemic. My hockey went down, the league went down, and we're just starting to build back up, get like our tournaments back up and running this summer, those kinds of things. So I think we're going to see a lot more involvement here, hopefully. And how many open spots? So there's about 50 individuals right now in the program. How many can you take on?
That's not a limit.
Yeah, it's limitless. I
Yeah?
mean, that's the thing is when you think about Lakeshore, people ask us that capacity question all the time. How many people can you serve? And ultimately, you can look at that question a lot of different ways. For us, it comes down to we're just always kind of adding to our staff, adding to our resources to make sure we're meeting need. But our ability to serve is really limitless in a lot of ways because we are so lucky to have so many great community partners. Alex mentioned the VA who are funding this particular effort, but our veterans programs in particular have been really championed by our community. Regions has been a great financial partner to us. Many others in the community have really kind of come on board to help us. And so we're grateful for the support. We continue to need the support because that's what it takes to do what we do. But our capacity to serve is limitless.
You guys are always growing. I just saw a post the other day. You guys are hiring.
We are.
Some lifeguards. There were some other positions on there.
Always looking for lifeguards. Always looking for lifeguards.
We have a question here. Barrett says, y'all mentioned golfing for veterans. Are there any other sports offered? Are there any other sports offered? Yes. So we talked to a number of those. There's aquatics, I believe. Or if you guys just want to give a quick list of.
Yeah. So every sport that is offered within recreation, they can participate. We offer. Actually, Cliff was the one that was going to talk about that because he manages that part of Lakeshore Foundation. But Jen can probably help me as well. But we offer bocce. We also have cycling. We also have wheelchair basketball. We also have wheelchair football, which we can probably expand on that.
We'll talk a little bit. Yeah.
So there's many opportunities to really participate in adaptive sports.
And murder ball. I like the name of that.
Yeah, the original name of wheelchair rugby. It's a fun sport, but as Alex said, there's a zillion different ways to get active here. We have an air rifle and air pistol range downstairs, so you can participate in marksmanship, you can participate in archery. We have track and field programs, swimming. And again, those can be in a competitive sport world. Those can be in a recreation pickup way to get active on a weekday. And then our fitness and aquatics programs that are a part of what we do every day. Again, there are so many different ways to get active here. It's coming here and just seeing what fits, seeing what you love, seeing what makes it worth it to come and participate.
Yeah, and it's really, the programs are designed for every need. Like if you go to aquatics, you will have like low impact, fitness classes, and you also have high impact fitness classes, and they happen in different parts of the pool. So it's pretty cool to be able to actually choose your experience, choose what you want to participate on.
Yeah, like my family member, she's not going to do any very high impact, and she needs help getting around. She uses a wheelchair. But when she comes here to the pool, it's really the only time that she's able to move on her own because of the buoyancy in the water. Mm-hmm. So that's a total freedom for her to go where she wants to go and sit next to who she wants to sit next to, those types of things. But there are 47 acres you guys have here as a campus. There are a multitude of sports. If you guys want to do something, it's probably here. And if it's not currently, they could probably work on getting it. So, now you mentioned wheelchair football. I've seen and heard about wheelchair basketball before, wheelchair rugby. I've never heard of wheelchair football. What's the history here, and what is this all about? So
I can probably start about how the program got started, and then Jen can probably give you some details. But we partner with Move United. Move United is an adaptive sports organization at the national level, and they are participating in a program from the NFL that is called Salute to Veterans, right? And so the idea of the program was to create an NFL league for people that use a wheelchair. And previously, we have done flag football here at Lakeshore Foundation. However, this type of football is different in the terms that it's not flag football, it's actually contact football. So you will see a helmet in those scrimmages and in those games. So the program started, I believe, with 6 teams in the U.S. One of the requirements was that those teams had to be in a city that was affiliated to an NFL team, right? However, Lakeshore Foundation is the only team that doesn't have an NFL affiliated team, and that kind of goes to show how people value the what Lakeshore Foundation brings to the table. So I think we have one season on our books, and now we're currently recruiting for the next season.
So one season is done.
Yeah, so we had our inaugural season last season. Our team is the Birmingham Hammers.
We have somebody in chat that just said, "Go Hammers!" Jacob Couch, go Hammers.
Jacob Couch, I would say hands down one of the world's greatest volunteers. Jacob is a Regions employee, and he's here more than our employees. He spends so much of his spare time here making Lakeshore happen. But so the Birmingham Hammers, we had our first season last season, and as Alex mentioned, Move United partnered with the NFL and the Bob Woodruff Foundation to put together a football league in this country. And we really wanted to be a part of that. We said, Alabama is a football state. Our football IQ is high, and we love all forms of football. I think we're all seeing the USFL is here in town, and we see the stands getting busier and busier every week for those games. But we had our first season. We had a great first season. We're recruiting now for that second season. We'll have tryouts for that on Saturday, June 4th. People can register online to try out for the Hammers, and we'll have 2 tournaments we'll compete in this year, and then we'll practice on Wednesdays and Saturdays kind of throughout the summer. But it is a really, really fun sport. It is organically football. It's fun, it's full contact, and if you're looking for a different way to get active, check out the Hammers, because it could be a really great way.
Now, are you wearing pads as well as a helmet there?
They are wearing helmets. There's not pads, so it's a fun sport.
Yeah, I bet you get banged up.
We provide all the equipment, like chairs are provided by us as well. A lot of times one of the barriers to participate in sports is just having equipment.
Yeah.
So we're able to provide that. And we not only participated in the league we were able to actually help with the rule book. So we were involved in this process since the beginning.
Yeah. Now, what is the ground look like? Is it on a field, a traditional football field?
So it depends on your facility. Here we do it at the basketball courts.
Okay.
Right. One of the requirements for the league is that you can do it at any surface that is safe, that doesn't have any cracks. Someone can actually roll a wheelchair on. So it's being done in parking lots, and parking decks, outdoor spaces, basketball courts. So it depends what you got available, but it has to be safe.
So it is a little bit smaller field.
It is, yes.
Is it the length of the basketball court, or the dimensions of a basketball court, or is
roughly? Yes.
Roughly.
Yeah, I can tell you the exact numbers.
Yeah.
And I participated in making the rule book, but it's been a while.
Yeah, so it spans multiple basketball courts. So our field house is actually three basketball courts with some alleyways in between, and the football field, extends to a majority of that hardwood surface.
So you guys closed down the field house for the games. Now the games, are you traveling every week? How long is the season?
So because it's a league that's really kind of getting started this season, again, there'll be actually, I think there's 3 competitions going on. We're traveling to 2 of them this year. And so we don't have any local tournaments this year, but we are putting on a practice that's going to be part of our space at the World Games. So people that come down to the World Games and are part of that will get to see wheelchair football as well.
Yeah.
So again, thanks to the World Games for creating a space for us to be able to practice and get different sports out there.
I'm going to give a shout out to the NFL as well for, putting some weight behind this and recognition in the name. Is it being televised? Where can we see some games?
They are not televised, but the NFL has done a great job. Last year at the Super Bowl, this past January, representatives from the LA team were part of the Super Bowl weekend. So I think the NFL has really put some of their biggest properties behind it. So they're really supportive.
And the league was actually announced at an NFL draft around 2 years ago in Las Vegas.
Jacob Couch says 60 yards in length, about 30 yards wide.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate that. I'm going to have to, I have a friend, Timothy Alexander, and he's at UAB. Are you guys familiar with?
Yes.
We do know Tim.
Yeah. So we did a broadcast with him about 3 weeks, maybe a month ago, something like that. And he says he's planning on getting into the Paralympics, but he was thinking, what was it, swimming? I think it was swimming. But he needs to be doing wheelchair football because he knows all about football.
He is a football guy.
Yeah. I wonder if he's
and certainly a champion of football in this community and a face of helping UAB get their football program back online.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. I appreciated the time. So if you're watching, Tim, I appreciate you, dude. Are there any qualifications to playing wheelchair football?
There are. So we're going to have a tryout, and again, that's on the June 4th date, and that's really around getting individuals. You don't have to be an everyday wheelchair user, but you do need to have a physical disability or chronic health condition to be a part of the team. So as Alex said, we do have equipment here, but you can come and try out. And again, that's about making sure that you can move your chair up and down the field. And again, if the hammers isn't the right fit for you, then getting involved in our everyday programs to build that strength and endurance so that you can be ready for next year's team can be an opportunity as well.
Yeah, you might be an enthusiast of football. When you get in here, it might be like, oh man, these guys are coming at me pretty hard. Maybe I need to spend 6 months building up to this point.
Yeah. But there's lots of different ways to find an entry point.
Now you mentioned the tryouts are June 4th, right?
They are.
And you sign up for that online at the
You do.
Lakeshore website there. So we can go ahead and put that. Actually, Barrett, if you would, looks like we already got the USA Wheelchair Football comment in there, so appreciate that. As we come to a close here, we always like to ask, are there any other upcoming events that we haven't talked about that we'd like to give a shout out to?
There's always something happening here.
I know. I feel like you guys have something every day of the week.
Yeah, this place is full of activity. A next big public spectator event. We've talked about the World Games a couple of times and really want to encourage our community to get out and support the World Games, support Low Point Wheelchair Rugby, which is being contested towards the end of the World Games. Right off the heels of World Games, we'll be hosting the Tri-Nations event, which will be the U.S., Great Britain, and Canada will be here for a wheelchair rugby tournament contested here at the foundation. Events here are free and open to the public. So there's tons going on here all the time. Check out our website. It's a fabulous resource for things. So whether it's getting involved in a program, contributing to a program, or becoming a spectator, there's a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, you guys are always doing so. So the U.S., Great Britain, and Canada for wheelchair rugby. That reminds me of like the U.S. versus Great Britain golf outing. I forget what that is. The captain's
The Ryder Cup.
Ryder Cup, yeah. So I imagine that's like a Ryder Cup for.
It is. It
wheelchair
is.
rugby.
That's we've joked about that being sort of a part of this.
Yeah.
And so it's Great Britain is coming off of their gold medal win at the Paralympic Games in Tokyo.
Yep.
The U.S. were the silver medalists. So fun to get back on the court against those guys and fun to bring down our friends from Canada.
Was it Japan got silver?
So coming out of Tokyo, Great Britain were the gold medalists and the U.S. were the silver medalists.
Oh, were they? Mm-hmm. Was it Japan third? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I thought Japan was in there somewhere.
They were in the mix as the host country.
Yeah. And was it Australia always the bad guys?
Australia was the reigning Paralympic champion,
Yes.
but they didn't medal in these games.
Take that, Australia. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd really like to say to an individual or a family member?
I would like to encourage everyone during the World Games. We will be at the
Sport Garden.
The Sport Garden. So we will have demonstrations there. So I encourage everyone to come by and visit us, talk to us, and learn a little bit more about Lakeshore Foundation, and also visit. If they want to learn more about Lakeshore Foundations, come here, connect with one of us. We'll be happy to show you around and teach you what we do here.
Yeah, I always feel like it's arms wide open anytime I get on campus. So
Good.
yeah. What is the sports garden?
So the World Games, in addition to all of the ticketed events, have a lot of other activities going on. And again, check out their website because there's tons of great information. But the Sports Garden is a space that's maybe a block south of Protective Stadium, and it's set up throughout the World Games from 3 to 8 p.m. daily, and we'll have a space there. And as Alex said, we'll be demonstrating different sports. We'll have our wheelchair football practice down there. Our fitness and aquatics folks will be down there demonstrating some of the everyday activities we do. And then a number of the sports that are being contested at the World Games will actually have demo spots down there. Like one in particular we know about is jiu-jitsu, which is on the official program for the World Games. They're doing an adapted version of it in the Sport Garden. So a way that people can, again, see a sport and then see the adapted version of it and
so
the
cool.
synergies there. So it's a really cool space. People should come down and check it out.
Yeah, and you don't need a ticket for that.
That's part of the Birmingham community.
Yeah, so even if you're going to an event and you maybe don't have a ticket to the next one, come down to the sports garden.
Come down to the Sports Garden.
Yeah, I'm hoping we get some backstage passes at some point. I don't know how we're going to do that. Well, I just want to say thank you both for giving us the time this morning, and we really appreciate everything that you guys do here in the community. So,
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us. Yeah.
and at this point, we'll kind of look at our respective cameras and say, "See you guys next time." Thanks for being with
See
us.
you guys
next
next
time.
time.